All right, little bit of a switch in terms of the conversation that we have this morning. And so I hope that you join us for this. It's an interesting call. I call it a call because technically there's something that is coming up for all of us to be part and parcel. I mean, a scenario where I will all say that at least you can have your own Bible, own a Bible, and not just own it the way you have, the English one, and you don't even know anything to do with English, and you just have it somewhere placed on the drawers. But a scenario where, this can be translated to your vernacular local language, and therefore you can read it and understand it, and just make use of it. We have guests that are joining us this morning for a very incredible conversation as they tell us what it is as an entity they have set up for us, called them BTL, that is annual run for the Bibleless 2021. And so when we're talking about the Bible, we're not here to preach, right?
Yes.
We're not here to preach, but we're here to make sure that the word goes as far as it can. And so we'll be having Caroline Kamau, who's the Resources Development Manager BTL, and also Jacob Njagi, who's the Linguistics and Beyond Kenya Initiative Coordinator at BTL. Why I'm saying BTL is not because I do not know what BTL stands for, but it's because I want them to introduce us to BTL. Yes.
Thank you, and good morning to all our listeners. My name is Caroline Kamau, and as Linda said, I work with Bible Translation and Literacy. And Bible Translation and Literacy, which in short is BTL, is an organization that was formed in 1981. And basically it was formed to write or develop languages for the minority languages here in this country. When we look at the history of Kenya, the bigger languages had been worked on, especially by the missionaries, working obviously with local people. And we are talking about like the Kikuyu, some of the Luya dialects, the Luo, some of the Kalenjin. But we have other communities that not much had been done in terms of writing of their languages, so they didn't have any literature at all in their language. And that's why BTL was formed, because that was a gap that was identified, that there is need to develop some of these languages, which include the Samburu, the Rendile, those are in northern Kenya. We have the Duruma, the Digo, the Giriama in the coastal stretch. We have languages like the Ogiek in Rift Valley, the Ilchamus, to name but a few. So BTL is actually working in 28 languages, those small languages, and we are involved in writing them from scratch and then using those languages to translate the Bible, but also using the same languages to develop other materials on health and also community development.
Okay, well, other materials, I would agree.
Yes.
But Njagi, since 1981, we are still translating the Bible all these years.
Yes, it's quite a task.
Okay.
A long task, requires a lot of work that goes into it. Let's take, for instance, a community or a language like Dasanach. Dasanach is found at the far north, almost at the border between Kenya and Ethiopia.
Okay.
Dasanach as a language has been spoken all these years, but has not been written down. Their literacy levels are very, very low. So what does it take to translate Dasanach language?
Right.
It takes a linguist who is not a native speaker of Dasanach, living in Dasanach, a very remote place. If you tried to go to Dasanach some 10 years ago, it would have taken you about 1 week or more from Nairobi to Dasanach. But now probably it's a little less because there are flights that go there. So you can imagine as an outsider living in such a community, to learn that language, to be able to break it down into not just speaking, but into what we call phonemes in English, or sounds of that language. It will take a very long time, not 1 year, not 2 years. Sometimes it may take up to 5 years just to learn the language and to break it down into a written system. And then after doing that, you need to test it within the community, and in testing you have to develop literacy materials, which the community now now that their literacy levels are very low, it means you have to teach them how to read, for them to interact with the materials that you have developed for them, to be able to tell you, well, yes, we think the way it's written, that's how it is, that's how we speak. And then it's at this point that then you can say we can begin translation. And then even before you say you can begin translation again, you have to go back and train the same people to help you translate the work. So if you look at that keenly, you realize that it takes a long time. Yes, it's not as easy as walking into a community like Kamba, for instance, which has had a written system, an orthography for so many years, and you want to translate for them. They have got elites all over the world. If you want, you can get professors, you can get people from all, all types of qualification to come and help in translation. Some of the communities that we work with require a lot of care, a lot of resilience, a lot of even that kind of patience and being able to work with this community, because they have not seen even outsiders living in their midst, and they wonder why you are coming there in the first place.
Random projections. How much more time until we're able to cover the whole of the country? Just how much more? I am curious because this sounds a little bit interesting, you know.
Well, maybe I can respond to that.
Yes.
I can say we've made very good progress. Here I'm talking about BTL. So far from 1981, we've been able to do 14 New Testaments completed and with the people. And of those 14, 5 of them we've moved into Old Testament, so they now have full Bibles. And then we have, where we have the New Testaments, like the 9 of them, we are continuing with the Old Testament translation. And there are some new ones that are coming up. We're just beginning the process. I want to say that in collaboration with others, we have determined, because before we engage into translation, we have to do what we call sociolinguistic research, and Jacob here has been involved in that. And in collaboration with others, we've determined that we only now need to begin work in about 2 languages in Kenya, starting from scratch. The rest are in various processes of translation, but only 2 more do we need to begin in Kenya. There are a few others that we are asked about, like the El Molo, that are almost extinct, and a few others that have come up. But for those ones, we think if we can just possibly just research on the language and maybe write maybe an alphabet, that would be adequate.
Okay.
So in Kenya, we are almost actually done in the language that we need to begin. And we now even have a focus of moving beyond Kenya to assist work in the region.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. Now, speaking of which, one would want to ask, why translation? In as much as you say, apart from translation, there are a couple of other things that you also focus on. And just what goes into this process? You say it's quite intense. Any technicalities that would be involved?
Yes, a lot of technicalities. To break it down, you need to realize that we are translating not from English to a mother tongue. We are translating from the originals, that is Hebrew and the Greek.
Okay.
And therefore, a Bible translator has to be schooled in Hebrew or Greek or both.
Okay.
And then they also have to understand the language, which we call receptor, the language that we are translating to. So if it's about, the Bible translator must understand Sabaoth quite well. Understand Greek and Hebrew, and understand Sabaoth quite well, so that when you translate or whatever you translate, it is able to communicate, because whatever is in the Bible, if you are talking about Jeremiah lived about 6,000 or so years ago. You need whatever he spoke 6,000 years ago to speak to somebody living in Mount Elgon today, as though God is speaking to him today. And that is not a mean task. It's a lot of work.
And speaking of which now, you go to regions where they have no idea of Christianity, zero idea of the gospel. And so again, it appears as though you'll start to preach first, or you'll just go to them with an interest of, this is a book, there's a random book, and I want you to help us translate this.
She talked about collaboration.
Yes.
We work with others. We are part of the church.
Okay.
So we work with other mission agencies and the church to do evangelism. We also try to do it, but mostly our part is providing materials, Christian literature, the scripture itself, to be able to be used for evangelism. Yes, as much as we may go to this community that has no scripture, they don't know anything, we also collaborate very quickly and expansively with other mission agencies and other organizations that are doing evangelism and discipleship to be able to work with these people, so that as we do Bible translation, which in most cases might be something that we do within an office, the other people who are working within the community and telling them that there is a God who speaks to people, and he speaks to people through his word, so that the time we release the word of God, maybe the Gospel of Luke, they already have an image, an idea about God, and then maybe soon after we collaborate with others, produce a Jesus film in their language, which brings a lot of excitement. So very soon there is a lot that is built within the community that makes the community embrace the work that we are doing. But what is very important is sustaining this missionary on the ground. It requires quite a lot of resource to be able to sustain them on the ground, and I think that's why we are here and we are collaborating with you to help reach out to the church, telling the church that this missionary, this translator who is in Sabaoth, who is in Dasanach, they need to be sustained there.
And so far, before it even gets to that point, so then who is this one person, or what entities will get to I mean, we just get to learn who sustains or who funds or who makes sure that at least the activities in BTL are well conducted in this scenario. And then just roughly and randomly, how much would it cost to just make a translation of a whole Bible?
Okay, Linda, if I may just back a bit and say on what especially you've asked about moving into communities that don't have God's word and whether we go and preach. I want to say that church leaders do approach BTL and they say, help us with a tool that we can reach out to our community. And therefore, that's why as BTL, because we have the expertise in language, we can provide the tool. And that tool now helps them to do their mission, in partnership. But you have rightly put it, and Njagi has alluded to it, it's a costly venture. It costs us about 3.5 million shillings a year to undertake a translation project. And this is because this cost goes into the translators, giving them some wage as they translate their books. It goes into the consultants, which he has spoken about, those who have knowledge in Hebrew and Greek, so that they ensure whatever is translated is really aligning with the original text. If it's the Old Testament, which was written in Hebrew, and the New Testament in Greek, so that we don't move away from the original meaning of the Bible. It means that as you draft, because translators are required to draft first, and then they check amongst themselves whether what words they've come up with really are representing the people. But they have to also move from there and go and work with what we call community reviewers. These are people from the community. They could be leaders. Some are the elite, others are church leaders, others are just community leaders. A mix of people. We have even the youth who know their language. They need to test and find out these words we have come up with, are they really our language? Is there something better we can use? And then there are workshops, training on software, because translation requires us to use software that can compare various texts of the Bible and now translate those into the local language. So all those activities lead to 3.5 million shillings a year.
Wow.
It takes us about 7 to 10 years to do a New Testament. About 7 to 10 years, and then give another about 12 years for the Old Testament. And when you look at that, it is, 3.5 million, 10 years, that's 35 million shillings. Who funds that? I would say well-wishers. Churches, even right here in Kenya, out of their missions budget, allocate funding into the work of BTL. We have individuals who feel that they want to be a part of this cause. We have corporate organizations that also do support from their either corporate social responsibility budgets. We have also friends and partners abroad that have been giving to this work to ensure that we're able to continue and support it. Even the local community does raise some resources towards this work, because they feel, even as others are supporting us, want to give something to show that we are really committed to have this Bible in our language.
Amazing. Now that Njagi speaks of the mission today, what is this mission that we're talking about? I see very nice t-shirts here. Most of the times when you see them, well, could be just branding, but aside from branding, there has to be a cause behind this. So take us through this. She's in a better position to do that.
Let me I can take you through this.
Okay.
Since 2008, BTL has been organizing a run. We call it the Run for the Bibleless. And basically, it is the course, it's a course to bring together Kenyans from all walks of life and even other well-wishers. It's not just limited to Kenyans, but mainly Kenyans to come together to raise funds for the sake of the Bibleless communities. And why we do this is because many of us actually in Kenya have been beneficiaries of Bible translation. Many people have a Bible in their language, especially for people in the bigger language groups.
Yeah.
And for us, we were not involved. I mean, in my community, we have a Bible in my language. I found it there. I was not involved in giving towards it. But now, with these other communities within our country, it's an opportunity for us to give also to these others who have not benefited as we have through running for the Bibleless. So the Run for the Bibleless has two aims. One is just to create awareness on the Bibleless communities in Kenya, the small groups that we are working among, because for many, they are not aware that, some of this, when you talk of Dasanat, people ask, is that Kenya? Yes, it's Kenya, and many others. So just creating that awareness, but secondly, raising funds to support this work. And so that's why we have put together this initiative. And because Kenyans are obviously known also to run, I mean, Marathon Front, we are known, and that's why we felt running for the Bibleless is a good initiative. In the past, we've often gathered in one place to run, do a 4-kilometer walk and a 10-kilometer run. But in view of the current environment where we are operating and with the COVID pandemic, this year we are doing it in a unique way. We are calling it a virtual run, where we are calling on individuals to register for the run, and you register with 1,200 shillings, and you get a t-shirt like this, or the one that I'm dressed in.
Right.
If you're an adult, and for children, you register with 1,000 shillings, you also get a t-shirt, and then you set your own distance from your house. We are telling people walk as individuals or families or even friends, again observing COVID protocols. Move from your house in whatever direction, setting your own pace, setting your distance, whether you want to do 10 kilometers, 2 kilometers, 4 kilometers, whatever pace and whatever distance you want to cover. And this can be even a leisure walk. By the way, it doesn't have to be the competitive one that we do when we are gathered in one place. You could walk in Arboretum and still be walking for the Bibleless, or any other place.
All right.
So as you do that, take your photos and upload them on your Facebook and other social media pages and just tag BTL. But in order for us to have some form of official flag off, at our BTL center in Upper Hill, we'll gather a small group of people where we want to officially flag off this event together with some of our guests, some bishops who have confirmed to come and other guests. And we will use our Facebook Live and YouTube platforms to beam that flag off, which should be at 7:45 a.m. on Saturday the 14th, which is the coming Saturday. And from there, people can choose to wait for that flag off and then take off in whatever direction. But all in all, in support of the Bibleless.
How instrumental has this been before? Like it's been done before, you say?
Oh, yes. We began 2008 to about 2,500 people participating. By last year it was called off at the last minute, but we have grown to around 12,000, 15,000 people actually supporting the cause of the Bibleless through this run. Yes.
Well, you will be told that sometimes there's a lot of animosity when you're trying to penetrate certain regions and introducing something new, and also just trying to gather some knowledge from them. Are there instances where there are difficulties for the people or the translators who traverse different, deep areas in the country to attain this?
Yes, there are a lot of challenges, though these challenges are not really from the community itself. It's because of the terrain, the harsh weather, and the lack of social amenities in some of those communities that we work with or in. So, and imagine, initially I told you that we take technical people who are well educated, and there are people from maybe Nairobi and other places, and sometimes even from abroad. Taking them to a place like Dasanach, which has got completely nothing, no water, you have to walk so many kilometers to get water or to go swim in Lake Turkana. It's quite a challenge, and that is what challenges people the most, or sometimes the weather. It's very cold here in Nairobi, but you can be sure in Dasanach right now it could be around that, if not 40. So some of these are quite a big challenge, but our teams, whenever they go, they are so trained to be able to gel with the community and collaborate, and even as they do whatever they do it in collaboration with the community leaders and the community itself, and therefore we've not really earned quite a challenge in terms of our teams relating with the communities on the ground. The challenge is so much because of either insecurity, which is common to everybody in that region, or the weather or other lack of social amenities. Yes.
All right, as we come to a close, how then do the people who would wish to contact BTL, go about it? I mean, someone would say, I'd want to give my money. How just what are the contact details?
Okay. Thank you, Linda. Yeah, and I recognize that it's possible that maybe on the 14th of August, not everyone will be available to possibly run and walk, and therefore there's an opportunity to give, and you can use the BTL pay bill number. But beyond that, I would say that we have contact numbers that you can use to reach us. One is 0722 209 606, 0722 209 606, and the other one is 0748 402 398, 0748 402 398. Any of those numbers will be able to get hold of us.
Joining the bandwagon, I would say, for those of us who've been privileged enough to get to understand the Bible, what it brings along into our lives. You do not want someone to miss out on this great opportunity, and therefore, if you can allow this person who's Bibleless to get a Bible, you then understand the kind of beauty that you have bestowed upon their lives. And on that very note, I am grateful. I must admit, I'll allow you maybe 30 seconds to call it a day for us.
Okay.
Yeah,
I would say it's been great to be here, and we look forward to seeing you on Saturday. All of you are invited. This is one run that has broken every barrier. You can walk from any corner of this country and even beyond Kenya. So join with us on Saturday, take your t-shirt, walk around leisurely, competitively if you want, but just be part of this initiative. Let us bless another community in Kenya that is waiting to get the Bible in their language.
Jacob.
Yeah, thank you. We really appreciate being here. And we appreciate the church and the partners that have worked with us for the 40 years that BTL has been in existence. We really thank you for working with us, and we welcome you to even participate in this one more time as we reach out to these communities that have not been reached with the gospel, so that at the end of the day, when we gather before God, everybody will be there from whichever, whether small or big community, will be present before the presence of God.
40 years and counting, certainly worth a course, and worth a course supporting. So come out there and support them. Caroline Kamau, Resources Development Manager at BTL, and lastly, Jacob Njagi, who's a Linguistics and Beyond Kenya Initiative Coordinator, BTL. We close it at that. We get to a different conversation. Remember, it is International Youth Day. What are you doing as a youth? Are you empowered enough? What are some of these things that we involve ourselves in to make sure that the community is a better space again for us after this break?